Well, Diane, prosecutors have wasted no time getting right into the alleged abuse that Cassie Ventura says she endured for years. Ventura telling jurors, quote, "He would bash my head, knock me over, drag me, kick me, stomp me in the head when I was down." She also got into the nature of those so-called freak-offs, saying that they involved hiring an escort and they performed under the direction of Combs, saying that they happened so frequently it eventually became a job for her to set them up. Ventura said she did not feel she had much of a choice but to participate, that she feared that Combs would retaliate or potentially blackmail her if she did not. And she's had at times to she's taken deep breaths, pausing her testimony, Combs appearing to be listening pretty passively with his hands in his lap at the defense table there. Now, remember, this is the first time that they are seeing each other face to face since 2018. You can imagine that emotions are very high in the courtroom right now. And this is expected to be a very lengthy testimony. Prosecutors bracing the courtroom for what's to come as she continues to testify, including videos of these alleged freak-offs.
Welcome back to my channel, Mother Suckers. Hey, I am Eloho. I'm sure many of you know by now that Cassie took the stand yesterday fully pregnant and testified about her nearly 10-year-long relationship with P. Diddy Combs. Cassie was 19 and Diddy was 35 when they started dating. And according to Cassie, the freak-off started when she was 22. Cassie gave intricate details about what all went down during the freak-off. So let me go ahead and give y'all a trigger warning, okay? Because this is crazy.
The first question that prosecutors asked Cassie was to identify Diddy. They pulled up a picture of him at an award show and they asked, "Is this the man that you refer to as Sean Combs?" She said yes. Then they said, "Is that the same man that you see in the courtroom?" She said yes. They then briefly touched on the abuse that she says she endured during their decade-long relationship. They also touched on that now infamous 2016 hotel attack video where she confirmed that it was taken immediately after a freak-off. Then they took us all the way to the beginning, back to 2006 when Cassie and Diddy met. She was 19 at the time. She was living in New York. She was a model turned singer who had a hit song, "Me and You," on the radio. Diddy then convinces her to sign with Bad Boy to a 10-album deal. Now, she knew of Diddy before she met him. She says she was a fan. She knew he had a larger than life personality. Now, Cassie says in those days, the relationship was platonic, that Diddy as a boss would look out for her, that when she bombed a performance, he was there to support her and also protected her. She says she was excited about the possibilities of where her career could go under Bad Boy. And that didn't change until her 21st birthday. She went to Vegas to celebrate the same time as the VMAs. Diddy was hosting a party, so she attended. At that party, he makes a move on her. He kisses her in the hotel bathroom. She says she was thoroughly confused. She's not familiar with the music industry, and this is an executive kissing his artist. So she says she starts crying and runs out of the bathroom. The two are now back in New York, and he starts inviting her over to his place. His apartment's getting renovated, so she says he was staying at the Trump Hotel. And as she goes over there, they start talking music and really start developing a bond. They also started to get intimate, and Cassie says that Diddy was actually the person who introduced her to the concept of oral sex. Really shamed her into it. So what happened is, he gave her oral sex, she went home. She didn't realize that she was supposed to reciprocate. So then she heard about it and he called it crazy that she would just leave. So then she says from there, he taught her how to do it. But she points to this to show that she was not only naive as she kept repeating, but also sexually inexperienced when she met him. She says she starts developing deep feelings for him and wants to be around him all the time. So when she finds out that he's gonna be in Miami one weekend, she concocts a plan that she's going to create a fake flyer saying that she's hosting a club down there so she has an excuse to be there. Her plan works. They end up spending the weekend on the yacht, partying, loving up on each other, and that's when he introduces her to ecstasy and they have sex for the first time. From that point on, she says she felt like they were inseparable. But in hindsight today, she calls herself naive because she didn't realize that although he made her feel like she was in a monogamous relationship, that she at the time was just one of many girlfriends. And in fact, he was still having relations with his ex-girlfriend, Kim Porter. She says they decided to keep the relationship private for many years from that point, partly because he's a music executive who's dating his artist and that doesn't look good. But the other part was because of his kids. But she says he brought her into his world of frequent traveling, assistance at his beck and call, and lots of partying. She also says that he controlled every aspect of her music career, how she looked, how she sounded, how she dressed, what songs that she would record. Songs that we now know never were released.
Cassie recalls that the longest freak-off was a 4-day drug-fueled sexual encounter orchestrated by Diddy and involving other escorts and male prostitutes that were all recorded without her consent. Cassie also recounted physical abuse, including beatings for minor arguments, and a pervasive atmosphere of fear and control.
I was in the courtroom as Cassie was testifying, so let me tell you guys everything that you didn't see or may have not heard, because it's a lot. I will say the most damning part of her testimony for me is when she describes a freak off where Diddy and another man, an escort, are standing on top of her while she is laying on the floor high off of ecstasy, and they are urinating on her face to the point where she is choking on their pee. And to further give context, on the right-hand side of the court seated is her husband, Alex Fine. On the left-hand side, Diddy's 6 out of 7 kids. We're sitting in the courtroom as Cassie is describing having weekly freak-offs for years that would last 2, 3, one lasted up to 4 days. She talked about damaging hotel rooms so bad in one instance that they had to pay such a hefty fee because the hotel told them that they needed to completely redecorate the room after a freak off. After a freak off, there would be blood, urine, and lots of baby oil. There was so much baby oil. There was also so much baby oil talk to the point where the judge at one point told prosecutors, wrap it up. But before we even got there, a very pregnant Cassie was called to the stand. She was wearing a tight brown turtleneck dress that was hugging her baby bump. When she sat down, you could tell she was nervous. And if you couldn't, you quickly picked up on it, because once she started talking, you noticed that she paused a lot. She would sigh heavily before she answered a question. One of those moments was when she explained to the court that a year into their relationship, that Diddy had approached her with this fantasy that he had. He called it voyeurism, where he wanted to see her have sex with another man, later referred to as freak-offs. She said her stomach dropped. She was 22 years old. She described herself as very naive and a people pleaser. She said the only reason that she agreed to it is because she knew it would make him happy, and she was afraid what would happen if she said no. That's also around the time, she says, that he started to get abusive. Most of her testimony today was spent on talking about these freak-offs, the different escorts that they would use, the different hotels that they would use. She said that she would find escorts off of Craigslist and this escort service called Cowboys for Angels. And to describe them, they weren't the most attractive men, right? They were very average looking. Some of them weren't even conventionally attractive. One thing they had in common is most of them were black, because Diddy preferred for her black men with a big D, she said. At one point, Cassie broke down in tears when the prosecutor asked her, why didn't you leave? If the freak-offs, as you explained, were so disgusting and humiliating, why not leave? And she started crying and said that she was very deeply in love, and this was the only alone time that she could get with Diddy. And it got to a point where this was kind of the only emotional connection that she was getting from this man that she was dating. So much more that I'll cover in another video, including his incessant phone calls, him tracking her down with his security, and her never being able to escape him.
Diddy's defense team acknowledges certain violent incidents, but argues that all sexual activities were consensual. His defense is going to try to spin this as if she was a willing participant, right? How could someone do this for 10 years? You know, she could have gone to the police. She could have spoken out. She could have left, right? These are all ways in which even everyday people in society try to oversimplify domestic abuse. She could have did this, she could have did that, when we know, or we've heard of women, right, who tried to leave, who tried to call the police, who tried to tell friends and family for help, and who are not alive today to tell their story. So just leaving is an oversimplified way of saying it's your fault because you were a part of this. And honestly, that video from 2016 is all it takes. That's all it takes to put the entire defense to rest. Case closed. You see a woman running and P. Diddy chasing after her, attacks her, and drags her back into the room. Nothing about that says consensual. Nothing about that says willing participants, okay? My prayers for Cassie and her family, for her to go up there and testify pregnant. You know, I know it wasn't an easy feat, but she did the right thing and she should be proud of herself. Now, I really had to brace myself for this one as well. Speaking of abuse, Halle Bailey gets a restraining order granted against her abusive ex, DDG. In documents, the actress claims that things got physical between us. She said that he repeatedly insulted her as she strapped the baby into the car seat in January. They fought each other, wrestling and tussling, she said, and at one point, Daryl was pulling her hair and then slammed her face against the steering wheel, causing her tooth to chip. Bailey included photos of her tooth and bruises on her arms in her filing, which have since been published by some U.S. media outlets. 2 months after the alleged altercation, Bailey alleges that DDG entered her house when she wasn't home and texted her a photo of her bed along with a threatening message suggesting that she was having sex with other men. And few days after that, she claims that he berated her when she did not want to send their unwell baby on a visit with him. He then smashed the Ring doorbell camera on her porch when he realized it was recording their confrontation. She further alleges that when she called a relative for help, he took her phone and slammed a car door on her as she was holding the baby. Bailey filed a police report over this incident. Bailey also requested that DDG be ordered to stop using his social media platforms to continue bad-mouthing me to his several millions of fans. He claims that I am withholding our son and that I am with other men. As a result, I then received threats and hate on social media, she said in the documents. This is insane. On Tuesday, a Los Angeles judge ordered DDG, whose full name is Daryl Dwayne Granberry Jr., to stay away from Bailey and their son until a hearing on June 6th.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Today drained me.
Now, to put the cherry on top of a raging, abusive, narcissistic imbecile, it's going to be his mama that's going to put the battery in his back, condone the BS. Yeah, DDG's mom posted on Instagram, "I don't usually comment or say anything on this internet, even with all the negativity, the lies, and hatred toward mine. However, these accusations have made me realize that I have been quiet too long." No, you've been condoning the BS for too long, because I'm 100% sure that you knew what your son was doing. You knew. I just pray that Halle and Cassie have a really strong support system, that they are getting therapy, and that they are doing the spiritual work needed to come back from this. But y'all let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. I'll be sure to keep you updated on both of these situations. Prayers to both of these women and their children and families. Y'all let me know your thoughts down in the comment section, and I'll see you at the next one. Later.